Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Lindia Hayden, and I work in the Office for Diversity and Inclusion. I'm also the co-lead with Pamela Lee Abner for the Black Women Leaders Connect Employee Resource Group. We like to call it Our Connection. This group was established for executive leaders to support one another and to nurture and guide women within our health system as well as our communities. It is our pleasure to present our fourth panel event for this year, Leading with Confidence and Owning Your Voice. We have closed captioning for this session. If you would like to read subtitles, please select the live transcription button. Our moderator for today's event, as well as the previous three events, is Maxine Legal. Maxine is the Director of Patient Experience and Cultural Transformation at Mount Sinai Morningside. Maxine?
Thank you so much, Lindia, and welcome everyone. It is so excited to have you here. Lindia, she disappeared on me, but I want to tell her thank you so much. She has been a joy to work with on these panels. Lindia, what number is this for us? How many panels have we done?
This is number 4.
Number 4
each quarter.
And the final one for 2021, correct?
Yes.
Well, I want to take the opportunity to say it has been such a joy working with you on these panels. She doesn't say it, but she's a rock star. She stays humble and she's very good at it, but she's just a pleasure to work with. And I'm really grateful to have the opportunity. And thanks for pushing me out of my comfort zone with making sure that we're providing these awesome dialogues and conversations on a regular basis. So thank you, Lindia.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, everyone. So this is it. This is our final panel discussion for 2021. We will not disappoint. It's going to be a wonderful conversation. We're going to jump into leading with confidence and owning your voice. And we have a great panel today. I am so excited. I'm going to introduce each one of them as we go through. And what I'd love for them to do is share a fun fact about themselves. So I'll start. I should be the sacrificial lamb, right? Kind of break the ice for everyone else, right? Don't you agree, ladies? All right, so Lindia told you who I am, Maxine Legal. I work at Mount Sinai Morningside. And a fun fact about me is I love music. I am a music enthusiast. I took piano both as a child and as an adult. I sing, I play a little bit of, I should be playing more piano, but I don't. So I really have to get back to it. And I love all different types of music, all different types of genres. But my favorite, my absolute favorite is gospel and old school hip hop. Old school being the operative word. Okay, old school. I don't want to give away my age, but that is my fun fact. So with that being said, why don't we jump into meeting our panelists for today? Jermaine, why don't we start with you? Jermaine Nelson is currently the clinical program manager at the Selikoff Centers for Occupational Health at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. Jermaine, it's so great to see you this morning. How are you doing?
I am well, and thank you, Maxine, and loving being on this panel with my fellow leaders.
All right,
good morning.
Jermaine, a fun fact about you.
Well, people always think I'm very, very serious, and I am, but I have a fun and quirky sense of humor. But I used to ride motorcycles, and a lot of people don't know that about me.
Every time we do this, we find out things about people that you would never think. Jermaine, you said you ride motorcycles?
I've given it up a bit, but yes, motorcycles.
All right. You got to live and learn. Thank you so much, and welcome, Jermaine. Excited to have you here with us.
Great to be here.
Lucia Lee is the Vice President for Media and Public Affairs at Mount Sinai Health System. How are you doing today, Lucia?
I am well, Maxine. I'm so honored to be with you all. Kalandra, Jermaine, oh my gosh, this is gonna be a fun discussion.
Well,
and my fun fact. I'm gonna jump into my fun fact.
I love it.
And I like music too, so we can definitely hang. And I like old school hip hop as well. But my fun fact is that I love Latin music. I love salsa, merengue. I love bachata. I love all of that. So if anyone likes to join me, we should hang. We should go.
So everybody, so far, what we've learned today is we can ride on motorcycles while listening to Latin music. Are you with me?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes,
All right.
that's a fun day.
Thank you so much, Lucia. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Kalandra.
Good morning.
Kalandra Branch is currently the Senior Director of Network Operations at the Mount Sinai Health System. Welcome, Kalandra. How are you today?
Thank you, Maxine. Good morning. I'm well.
What's your fun fact?
So my fun fact is also music related. I have a music blog called the Liner Notes Lounge. And I have a music podcast called The Listening Suite. So I also like all different types of music, but for this particular podcast and blog, it's mostly down-tempo, ambient, and jazz. And jazz is my favorite genre. So we can all ride motorcycles with Jermaine. I have to tell you, Jermaine and I have known each other many, many, many years, and I never knew about the motorcycle. So when you think you know somebody, think again.
I am with you. And that is why it's always important for us to constantly, right, engage and connect with people, no matter who they are or where they work. We make assumptions about people. It's not till we have good dialogue and open conversation. People will never stop surprising you. So thank you, Kalandra. All right, everyone. So why don't we jump into our discussion for today? Happy to meet our panelists. We've introduced them, but now we want to hear a little bit from you. So we do have a poll question today. All right. I'm going to ask our team from Media Services to share this polling question. It says, do you feel like you own your voice with confidence? Do you feel like you own your voice with confidence? And we're going to give you guys a few minutes to answer that question. All right. So you can either give us an answer of yes, no, or maybe. All right. And it's anonymous. We're not going to know who said what. So please, by all means, be transparent. And I'll be honest with you, if I was filling out, and I don't mind being transparent at all, I would hover somewhere between no and maybe. So this is an area I think that, I have struggled in, and you shouldn't feel bad if you struggled in. That's why we're having this dynamic discussion today. All right. So once again, the poll question is up. Do you feel like you own your voice with confidence? Choices are yes, no, or maybe. I'm wondering if the panelists are willing to share. How would you answer that question? Do you mind being transparent? Can I put any one of you on the spot?
Since we're among friends,
sure,
I will share that I toggle between a yes and a maybe.
Yeah.
Depends on the day.
All right. All right.
Same
there, right? Yes and a maybe. You too, Jermaine? Yes and a maybe?
Yes and a maybe. And I'll say I'm on a journey to own it at different parts of the day. Yeah.
I love that. And I think that that's so important, right? When you say that we're on a journey, depending upon where we are, the day we're having, what we're tackling, right? That'll look different for us. And that's important for people to hear. So we have about 88% of you guys who've answered so far. I'm going to stall. I'm going to wait a few more seconds because I'd love to hear from a few more people, just so we have a pretty good idea of where people land with this question. So with that being said, please take the time right now to answer that polling question, and then we'll share it with the group and kind of see, right? We've heard from our panelists where they stand. It'll be interesting to hear what you guys have to say as well. All right, so I've waited oh man, we're the competitive side of me, ladies. We're at 90%. I want to wait till 100, right?
100%.
I do. So you know what I'm gonna do? Someone said in the chat, I'm going to jump into the chat, right? Why don't we look at some of the things people have said while we wait to get to that 100? It's the Mount Sinai in me, right? I want that 100%. Lynn says, how about sometimes, depending on the venue? I'm with you on that, Lynn. That is true. As you look to answer that question, sometimes, yeah, and Christiane definitely agrees with you. That's a great point. It really depends. A few people joined us and they're so excited to be with us. So hello, hope I say this name right. Celicia Montgomery, great to have you with us. Agatha is giving Lucia a shout out in the chat. So hello and thank you for that. And for those of you guys who've reached out in the chat to say good morning, thank you. Thank you, Janice. And please, I'll be checking the chat as we go through the discussion, so feel free to jump in. All right, I'm ready. Where are we at? What percentage are we at? You can share it. We're at 96%. I will take it. Can we see the results of our poll, please? Oh, drum roll. All right, let's see what we got here. Do you feel like you own your voice with confidence? 27% of you said yes. 21% of you said no, and 52% of you said maybe. All right, all right. I like that. So ladies, what do you think about that? 27% said yes, 21% said no, 52% said maybe. What are your thoughts about that? Anyone jump in, guys?
All right, I'll jump in. I think to Lucia's point that depending on the day or someone else, I think in the chat said venue, I think those are really true and honest reflections of how you feel, right? If you're in a space or room where you've been in before, you know people, it's easier in new settings or a controversial point. You know, how do you articulate that voice that's yours, right? Remaining authentic, feeling confident as you're discussing what your point of view is, and just letting people know how you feel. So I would agree with the poll, right? The poll results.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else?
Yeah, I second what Jermaine said. I actually, it's quite nice to see 27% yes. Here, you know, for those on the call, you know, I think that it's really a nice attribute to have confident, you know, colleagues and throughout the organization. But that is not surprising at all. I thought that was actually going to be higher because, to Jermaine's point, in any given scenario, that confidence can bubble up and show itself, or may not be present. So, yeah.
So I agree. I think I'm going to put a different spin on it, as I usually do. Everybody that knows me knows that I am totally a leadership junkie, and I'm always learning and looking into leadership and leadership development. So when you talk about confidence, I think I want to say, first of all, for those who said maybe, there's nothing wrong with maybe. And I think that I will never be in the yes category, that I would always be yes all the time. As a lot of us have said, it depends on the circumstance, it depends on the environment, and sometimes it depends on the time of day. But my philosophy is that you're always learning. Why are you confident? Because you are well-versed in something. If you're always learning, that means there's always something new that's bubbling up in you. And until you can grasp that well, you may not be as confident with some of those new things that you're learning as a leader. So there's always going to be that wiggle room of maybe, because those are the things that you're learning. I think that what we should strive to be confident in, and I'm probably jumping ahead of the game, what we should strive to be confident in is that 100% of the time, I'm confident about what I know. So that those maybe times are the times when it's something that I'm new to, or something that's being introduced, or something that I'm on a journey with, or something that I'm learning. And I think if you put it in that perspective, we'll be much more forgiving of that maybe. And the no's, we just keep working on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, ladies. I'm seeing in the chat, people saying preach in the chat. Totally agree with Kalandra, says Punita. Agata says, love this, Kalandra. So we're getting some agreement in the chat as well, and in reference to what was said earlier from our other panelists. And I'm seeing this common theme, right? It depends on the situation, which echoes what you mentioned earlier, Jermaine. So why don't we jump into our first question? Do you think that having confidence and owning your voice is innate or learned? That kind of taps into a little bit about what Kalandra just said. Do you think that having confidence and owning your voice is innate or learned? What do you think, ladies? Any one of you can jump in.
Well, I'll jump in as kind of a segue. I think that it's a little bit of both. It's kind of like the leadership question of our leaders born or made. And I think that there's a genetic disposition for all of us to be confident, and also for us to be shy and to not want to speak out. I think a lot of it is based on your environment and how you were raised. Some of it is cultural in terms of how confident you are. And I think I was sharing with someone earlier that I used to be very shy and not confident and not wanting to speak out. And part of what changed that for me, and someone asked me, one of my students asked me the other day, well, how do I change that? And I said, it's really hard to. It's hard to do that. It's hard to come out of your shell. It's hard to come out of your comfort zone. So what I started realizing was, if you're confident in something, and if you know that you know your stuff, then speak it with authority, speak it with confidence. And I think when we start on that piece of it, it kind of helps us to know how to be confident and how to speak with confidence. So I do think it's a combination of both. And some of the learning is, I don't think you can take a class in confidence, but I think some of it is learning through example and learning through experience. What really got me out of my shyness was when I became involved in organizations that, because of the nature of the job, I had to do public speaking, and because the nature of the people around me who were not going to let me just sit and be quiet because they were always encouraging me, those are the things that allowed me to become more confident and outgoing. And, it's funny when somebody said, preach in the chat, my husband's a minister. And one of the things that preachers always say when they preach, and I don't care how long they've been preaching, they will always say that before they deliver their sermon, they're nervous. And it's not because they're not confident in what they're doing, but there's kind of the humility there that makes them think, I always want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. So somewhere in your confidence, it's okay to sometimes just want to make sure that you're speaking the truth, that you're saying the right thing, and it's okay. I had to make a presentation last night. I made presentations over and over again, but I get nervous. I've done panel discussions. I'm still nervous. My hands are ringing right now under the table. But does that mean I'm not confident? No. It just means that even in my confidence, I want to make sure that I come across as authentic.
It's almost as if you have to get used to doing it afraid and being comfortable in the uncomfortable, right?
Yes.
Because I'm with you, right? That nervousness, it doesn't go away, but that's okay, right? It's just a part of what we're experiencing. Thank you, Kalandra. I love that. Lucia or Jermaine, on the same question, do you think that having confidence and owning your voice is innate or learned?
I could speak to,
No, go ahead, Jermaine.
I could speak to my journey, as I call it. I've had to learn it through mentoring and sponsorship and looking at examples in my community that have helped me, giving myself the space and grace to say if I don't internally feel confident, and challenging myself. A simple thing that you can do with yourself at meetings, if you know you're building your confidence, is say, I'm gonna make 2 points today or 1 point today. And that builds your ability.
I like that.
Thank you, to get in those spaces and have the conversation, right? Because no one wants to feel odd, if you will. But I do believe that it can be learned. And, hearing Kalandra speak, Kalandra is a colleague of mine, buddy, and friend. And we have these kinds of conversations about many things and challenge ourselves and each other. So if you have a good group like our ERG, you can get there. But give yourself the grace. Someone put humility in the chat. It takes humbleness to become confident. And give yourself little tools and you'll get there.
I like what you said though, right? Having a community, having colleagues, and someone, maybe it was Dr. Harris, someone else said that, right? Having a group of people or someone that you can keep you accountable, right? Push you out of your zone or help you with those types of things, I think is also important. So thank you for that. Lucia, you were gonna say something, I'm sorry.
No, I agree with both of these ladies. And I definitely think that confidence can be learned or is learned, we all should continuously be on a journey to build strengths in this area. But yes, there are folks who are naturally confident. We see them. We try to emulate them. They're confident in their actions and interactions. But for most of us, we build that confidence over time.
Time.
We
Yeah.
we cultivate that voice, and that voice has many
Evening.
layers. I mean,
Yeah.
the layers are, I mean, part of them is your ideas, the clarity of thought and ideas. So you have that innate curiosity, and you bring that to your voice, and that builds confidence, right? And over time, ultimately, you know, the goal is to respond in an authentic, constructive, and effective way. I mean, that truly is where, you know, I put myself as an example, is that I'm continuously on that journey to be at that point where I'm showing up in a confident, effective, and constructive way. And so it's learned. I'm learning. I'm learning as I'm with
learning right now.
I'm learning right now.
On the job, right? I love that.
Yeah.
I love what you said, right? And someone also put in the chat, it's about cultivating it, right? I remember I'm a music enthusiast, okay? I remember seeing a video of Lauryn Hill. She sang at the Apollo. She must have been maybe like 13 or 14 years old. And she got this close to getting booed off the stage. And that video helped me so much because Lauryn Hill is, I mean, years later, I mean, just tip top, just one of the greatest vocalists. But it made me realize that even she was on a journey for confidence. And she kept going at it. She kept singing until the Lauryn that you knew of was completely different from that shy person you watched on the Apollo. There's something else you guys said that I love as well, right? It's a lot, and we talked about this, just so you know, everyone, before we start, we have a little backstage conversation, and we were talking about our inside voice and what we say to ourselves. And there's a quote I always remember. It says, be careful what you say to yourself because you are listening, right? And so also when we're showing up, what are we telling ourselves in that showing up piece as well? That also has an impact in how we show up in this idea of cultivating our confidence. But it seems like the answer to the question is, do you think that having confidence and owning your voice is innate or learned? Based on what you guys said, the answer is yes, right? It's a combination of both of those things. So what does leading with confidence look like to you? What does leading with confidence look like to you? Can I throw this one at Jermaine first? Do you mind if I throw this one at you? What does leading with confidence look like to you, Jermaine?
You talked about Lauryn Hill and if you can prepare, and getting myself comfortable with being part of this panel. I was listening to a number of podcasts and videos, and what does leading with confidence look like to me? I would happen to come across the great voice of the time, one of them, Jay-Z. Ooh. And he said, I walk in every room as myself. Ooh. And I thought that just simple but profound. And that's what it looks like. Really knowing that you walk into that room as yourself. And realizing that you have a point of view, you bring your experiences with you, you speak about that group behind you, like this panel, and just know that. And that's enough. You know, we think it has to be this real scientific type thing, but you walk into that room as yourself and you bring forth your experience, expertise, upbringing, all those things. So that's what I thought about. And when I heard it, it just so resonated with me.
Powerful. Thank you, Jermaine. I love that. Anyone else on that question? What does leading with confidence look like to you?
I love that, Jermaine. Wow.
Yeah. That was fire.
I'm still on that. That's amazing. I think that just to pick up on what I shared in response to the first question is that being authentic and having impact. You know, what Jermaine said is that you're an original, right? Those are there's no one else like you. So if you show up each time in that and live in that and have that be present every time you show up, I think you can't fail, you know? And then also I call it being direct with respect. This is what I sort of use. I learned that from my grandmother.
Can you repeat that?
Being direct with respect is something that I picked up from my elder, my grandmother who raised me. I mean, it's just, this is something that she constantly shared with me. And being direct, meaning it's like, share your ideas and your opinions. You're there for a purpose. Your purpose is to communicate that idea with individuals, with that group. And that is something that sort of like I keep with me every time, and do it with respect, because that's so important. Respect is so important, because respect is where you sort of build those connectivity with people, and you build those relationships.
That's powerful. Someone said in the chat, Lucia, that's a whole word. All right, people are echoing what Jermaine said as well in the chat. I appreciate that. And then someone said something, and I love it. Patrice Gordon said, I think confidence can be learned by learning to not be afraid of being wrong when we speak.
Ooh,
And and when we are incorrect, being humble enough to accept correction instead of feeling humiliated. Supportive environments in which constructive feedback is provided definitely helps to build confidence. Thank you so much for that, Patrice. I love it. Thank you so much. Calandra, I want to give you a chance in case you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, on that note, I've been thinking, what is confidence? Thinking about the Jay-Z quote, thinking about what Lucia's grandmother said, confidence sometimes is being yourself. And that's my definition of leadership, is being you, being the real you. And I think that one of the reasons, even if we're confident in ourselves and our abilities, for myself, I think that one of the things that I used to struggle with was communication. I never wanted to present myself as anyone other than myself. I wanted people to, when I left a room or left a meeting, to know this is who Calandra is. And I wanted them to have a view of me that was real, that they were seeing the real Calandra.
Right.
And so sometimes I think that comes through our issues with communication. Am I saying what I want to say in a way that people understand the way that I'm saying it? Are they picking up what I'm putting down? And I think that one of the reasons, so a lot of this we said was cultural. My parents taught us, you walk in a room with your head held high, you look straight ahead, you view the room, eye contact, things like that. That's all part of confidence. But, just be yourself. Because there are times when I've walked in a meeting and it's not always just what you know and being confident in what you know. It's really about being confident about who you are. Be confident about who you are as a leader. I have walked into a meeting, and especially I've been in this role for 6 months now. I'm walking into many meetings, not having a clue, not knowing what we're going to talk about, not understanding some of the backstory, the background, but you walk in there like because you know that I have the ability to learn, I have the ability to listen, I have the ability. So you go in as a sponge. But you don't walk in there looking like you don't know what's going on. You walk in there and you take it. And usually by the end of the meeting, you figured it all out. So sometimes it is kind of self-fulfilling.
Wow.
And I'm not talking about fake it till you make it. I'm not talking about that.
Okay.
But sometimes it's that mindset. And that's why I think our parents taught us that, to stand tall and to look ahead and to come in the room like you earned your way in there. And so I'm going to bring that up too, that we need to, especially as women, especially as Black women and women of color, we have to walk in that room and sit down at the table as if we've earned that seat, because we have.
Shirley Chisholm.
Quoted as unbought and unbossed, she was.
She said, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding
chair. Bring a folding chair. Yes.
Right. I have a question in the chat. I want to jump into this one. Let's see here. Wait, I just lost it. Where did it go? G. DeCall says, how do you build your confidence in a non-supportive environment? How do you build your because we talked about having a group of people, right? You can defer to, be accountable to, but how do you build your confidence in a non-supportive environment? What are your thoughts around that, ladies?
I think, go ahead.
No, you go this time.
I was just about Calandra. Gosh, so profound, your statements. I mean, I'm learning so much as I participate, but you said something like, if you show up with curiosity, right? I mean, it's really about, you may enter that room and not know, but you'll start forming those ideas, right? And so to me, like, just a tip that I will use is do some introspective work. Ask yourself, who am I? What motivates me? What are my ideas? You know, start there. If you start with yourself, I mean, that is then even without that supportive environment, you're focused on you and what matters to you and how you want to contribute and how you want to show up. So that I find that probably is where I would recommend starting.
All right, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
I agree, because when you think about it, because I was struggling with that question when you first read it, Maxine, but you made it so clear. It's not about everybody else. And we have to get to the point where yes, we talk about having support around us. And the support can be without that, the question was about being in a non-supportive environment. So I work in a wonderful department. I love my team. But if you're in a department that's not working for you, your support system may be outside of that department. But when you're in the middle of that unsupportive environment, it is not about them. It is about you. You can only control what you do, what you say, and how you act. You cannot control how the others are around you. So don't expect them to do anything for you. And I know that sounds harsh, but that's a reality. And Jermaine and I have known each other for many, many, many years, and she has seen me come through that journey. You can't expect other people to do it for you. This is all about you. Own it and run with it. And don't look back. Don't feel badly about it.
Love it. Thank you, Kalandra. Jermaine, anything you want to add to that?
The points of the other panelists are so on point, pardon the pun, and so true. You are in control of yourself, how you show up, how you are positive. You continue to work, do the work from a place of excellence and power, and then just let the rest of the environment fall off. And to Kalandra's point, while at work and working within it, you can still have outside support. Kalandra's being, transparent about our longtime friendship.
Right.
We would have to have meetings after work.
Yes.
And dinners after work.
The meeting after the meeting.
To affirm and speak for each other and just listen. So find your group of people that you can speak to from a position of power. It's not a gripe session. It's what tools can you acquire when you leave this table with people who've heard you and will be supportive, that you can now go back into a work environment that may not be so supportive, but they are your sounding block. And they give you good information. And I've been fortunate to have that experience in my life.
Right. No, I'm with you. And you remember, we've had these types of conversations throughout the year. We talked about mentorship and sponsorship. If you find yourself in an environment where it's not supportive, seek out a mentor. Be willing to seek out a sponsor as well. There are so many people that you can tap into, even just within Mount Sinai alone. I mean, I've reached out to Kalandra, right? And there are other people within the system I've tapped on to say, hey, I kind of need your help with this. I'm struggling here a little bit, or what are your thoughts? What's beautiful about, I think, our system is that there are supportive leaders, right, that will definitely be available to help you. And I'm pretty sure, and I've done it with Lucia as well. And if I needed Jermaine, I'm sure I could reach out to her as well, and she'd be there. And so I think it's also about building, right? If you're in that environment that may not be the most conducive to your building your confidence, then build a network outside of that as well. So thank you. Wonderful, wonderful just insight from all of you guys in regards to that question. And I thank the person who put that in the chat. I appreciate that. I'm going to go back into the chat and read a couple of things. Oh, well, Lindy's on it. She says we had a session on mentorship and sponsorship, and she dropped the recording in the chat. So folks, definitely check that out. It was a really great session. Aaliyah says progress and growth occurs outside of the comfort zone. I believe that to be so true. We like to be comfortable, but that's not, I mean, look, am I comfortable right now? I might look like I'm comfortable, but I'm sweating up a perform, right? Because this is something that I have to commit to continue to do for my own growth. Hazel says, very true. You are in control of your own destiny. I think this is in response to what Kalandra was saying earlier. It's so important to tune out negativity and focus on the opportunities that are in front of you. Thank you so much, Hazel. And by the way, Hazel's one of our administrative fellows. So thank you for sharing that with us, Hazel. Wonderful. Next question. We already touched on this, but let's give the audience some specific tips. What are some tips that you can give our audience for those who lack confidence or struggle with finding their voice? And again, I think we've answered this, but if you can each give a tip, maybe reiterate what you said already, I think that'll be helpful. Sometimes repeating things is helpful for people as they're going through this journey. I'll ask the question again. What are some tips that you can give our audience for those who lack confidence or struggle with finding their voice? Kalandra, you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I think the first thing you have to do is, we're all in healthcare, so we're all about the root cause analysis. Figure out why. What is it that if I looked back at my own journey, ask yourself the question, why do I not feel confident? Is it because I don't know how to communicate appropriately? Do I not know the right words? Is it because of the audience? Are you intimidated by other people? I think you really have to soul search and figure out why you're not feeling that way. Because once you really get under the hood, that's really where the solutions come. So I'm sorry that's not more directive, but I think that's where you have to start is to figure that piece out.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's so spot on. Also, I think that Maxine, you had mentioned this, but finding a confident role model or finding a mentor, but a confident role model, like emulate those behaviors. For me, it was my grandmother, and so that's how I show up, because it's something that I learned from her. But also that's what Kalandra said, asking yourself why is so crucial. Who am I? What motivates me? What are my ideas about work, community, and bring that those answers will sort of lead you to your path. But good thoughts, Kalandra, on that.
Powerful.
One.
Thank you, Tremaine. Anything you want to add to that?
I always would like to say to people, there are so many programs here at Mount Sinai. Through talent development and learning. Critically, do some introspection, as Kalandra spoke to. What is it with you? And what is it you want to build on? And do trainings. There are so many trainings we have here at the hospital. From Toastmasters, there's a group, right? I haven't joined, but I see that in the email. Yes. So if speaking is a challenge for you, you might want to join that. Agreed. But I always say, go to trainings. You not only meet people there who are experts and you're like, hey, I want to be like them when I grow up yourself, but you're getting pearls from seeing someone else. And coaching, be coachable. Again, we're going back to the mentoring. Find a good mentor and find people who you vibe with in a good way, who affirm you, and look at your circle. Again, I have the beauty of having Kalandra here with me. There are a core group of friends that we've had throughout professional journey, and we can call and rely on each other, and we can sound off of each other. And that's how you get there.
Yeah. This is wonderful. I'm going to jump into the chat, and then we have a question in the Q&A. Christiane says, I appreciate the transparency and authenticity that all of you leaders are bringing to this panel. Thank you so much. Robin says, thank you, panelists, for being transparent. I just want to say that transparency is a Mount Sinai Morningside value. Shameless plug. Lindea says she's an officer in the Toastmaster group at Mount Sinai. So if you're interested in joining, let her know. All right, we got some really awesome resources percolating in the chat today, so please be sure to check that out. I have a question in the Q&A. It says, how do you identify that your confidence is paying off in the workplace? I'll ask again. How do you identify that your confidence is paying off in the workplace? Lucia, you look very contemplative. What are your thoughts on that? You're like, what do you think about that? You want to take a stab at that? And you can. I'm asking you first. So you know what happens, everyone? I go to the first panelist. They say something. They all feed off of each other. But I'm pretty sure the person that spoke first is like, that was good. That was good. I want to come back in. So you can take this one, and if you want to jump back in later, you're welcome to do so. But again, how do you identify that your confidence is paying off in the workplace? What are your thoughts, Lucia?
So I guess I would say is that the feedback you receive from others, but and in addition to that is the relationship building that happens around you. It's that when you show up with confidence and you're intentional about the impact that you want to make, the ideas that you want to share, you naturally find folks who you develop these connections with people, you know, and I think that probably is one of the big signals for me in my experience here at Mount Sinai and outside of Mount Sinai in the workplace, is that the relationship building and the feedback that you receive from colleagues.
I know, I'm with you on that. The feedback certainly helps, especially when it's coming from colleagues who are invested in your growth, right?
Yeah.
And they're partners with you and they're team players. When they come back and say things to you, that really helps. So I want to say something to the room. It is important to have colleagues that do that, but it's also important to be a colleague that does that for others.
Yeah, so important. So
right.
important.
This is reciprocal. Okay. We can't go out looking for support if we're not willing ourselves to be there to give support to our colleagues when they need it as well. Calandra or Jermaine, you want to take a stab at that? How do you, and thank you, Lucia, how do you identify that your confidence is paying off in the workplace?
I just wanted to piggyback off of something that Lucia just said.
Sure.
Yes, get the feedback, but be cautious about who you get feedback from. And you'll know, you can get negative feedback from someone who does not have your best interests in mind. So use discernment with who gives you negative or positive feedback. Because I've gotten positive feedback from people that was just BS. And so, you know, in all seriousness, you know,
like a preacher's wife.
This is about you. This is about you.
Like a preacher's wife. I like that.
This is about you, you know, so again, it's good to get the feedback and it's good to feed off of that, but just be cautious as to who you're accepting the feedback from. Right. But in general, if you're doing a good job, you're going to get that feedback. You're going to see it in built relationships. Yep. If I could go back for a second, we were talking about, you know, how do you lead with confidence? Right. One of the reasons it's important to be confident is not just because it makes you look good, but it gives you authenticity and people trust you. We are in a business where if you're building a team or you're building relationships, people have to be confident in you. And I teach this to my kids all the time. If you're muttering or you're looking down or you're saying, well, you know, the numbers look good this month, nobody believes you. Nobody believes you. So being confident is also being credible. And it builds your credibility with other people. And that's how you build the trust and the relationships. So I caution all of you to have a yay moment. And I have these all the time. We have aha moments. I have a yay moment. I believe in celebrating the wins. So if someone says to you, you know what, that was really a great point that you brought up in the meeting. And maybe in your mind, you weren't sure, like, I love what Jermaine said about setting a goal, saying, you know what, I'm going to make 2 points in the meeting, right? Or I'm going to take advantage of an opportunity where I know that I would have been nervous about speaking up, but I think I'm going to speak up about it. And if someone responds to you positively, just say to yourself, yay. It's a yay moment, because confidence builds on top of confidence. When you take the feedback, take it, take the compliment. So I knew this was going to come up, and I think this is the time for me to share it. I've shared this all the time. One of my favorite books that I got last year for Christmas was Stacey Abrams' Leading from the Outside. And one of the stories she tells that just resonates with me so much is that when she first started to get into the political arena. You know, she was a minority in many ways, one as a Black woman, one as a woman, you know, in a Southern area where there were a lot of folks who had been around. There was an old boys club, the whole nine. And when she would speak, as she started doing things, she kind of kept to herself a lot. And she was getting compliments from some of the older gentlemen who had been around in the old regime. And she kind of blew them off as if, well, you know, like anybody could have done this. You know, we've all done that. And she thought that that was being humble. And finally, after one of her older Black colleagues, female colleagues had seen her do this, she kind of tapped her on the shoulder and she said, stop doing that. Because the minute that you don't take that compliment and you put yourself down and you start to say, well, anybody could have done that, it wasn't anything special, people are going to start to believe that. And people are going to start to think that. So there's nothing wrong with taking the compliment. That's your yay moment. You own it. You build on top of it. And that's how you become more and more confident. Stacey Abrams.
I don't know.
We're done. That's it.
I love Stacey Abrams.
I'm ready to go get lunch. I don't know. Have they ever had
so
a
much to
panel?
offer?
Have they ever had a panel discussion? People just walked out like, I'm done. I don't want to talk anymore. We're good.
Give Calandra a mic right now.
I did not intend for that to be the mic drop moment. We have a lot more to talk about.
Why didn't you wait until approximately 11:57 to say that? I love it. Thank you so much. That is great, Calandra. That's true. I mean, that's just sound insight. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Well, let's keep going. I'm gonna go into the Q&A. Jermaine, did I give Jermaine a chance to speak? If you want to leave that one alone,
you did not, but now you want me to follow Calandra. I'll be calling you after this, Calandra.
No.
Meeting after the meeting.
Yeah. At some point in the panel. What's that?
I have a card that someone left for me, and you'll know by an act, you know, a simple card, but a card is not simple because they took the time to write a lot of great things inside. And I'm going to take it home and share it with my mother because I think I could get a even better Christmas gift as if she sees this, because, you know, you want to know that you've done a great job as a parent, and this card speaks to it. And it speaks to the mentorship, building behaviors and confidence, which is so on point, right? So you'll know because people will speak to the impact that you've had on their life. And isn't that what it's really about? Right? It's not title. It's how are you making an impact in someone's life, career, daily work, those kinds of things. Yeah.
You was gonna keep that to yourself, Jermaine? You was gonna keep that to yourself?
Yeah, I was, but then I said, no, let me jump on in there.
Yeah. I was in a meeting with Tandy Way. You guys know Tandy Way? I think she works at the downtown. She said something that it just blew my mind, and I think it's in line with what Calandra and Jermaine are saying, right? It's not about title. She said it's not about your role, it's about being a role model, right? And that's what this is about. When you lead with confidence, you'll have influence, positive influence over people, right? Because it's not about your title. It doesn't matter, but it's whether or not you're a role model. What are you role modeling that people want to tap into? So I take no credit for that quote. I got it from Tandy Way. In the Q&A, Sean says, what advice would you give to those who have ideas or suggestions and are voicing them to their leadership, but feel like they're not being heard or recognized? What advice would you give to those who have ideas and suggestions, they're voicing them to their leadership, but they feel like they're not being heard or recognized? Well, what would you say to them, ladies? And I'm opening it up. Anyone can jump on that one.
Sometimes it's not now, but it's a wait. The organization, the boss, the entity may not be ready for your idea. And I always encourage people, sometimes you have to look outside your workspace to contribute. There are a lot of community organizations that need you. There are your professional organizations that benefit from your talent and expertise. Again, mentoring and sponsorship. Who are you mentoring? Who are you sponsoring? That's going to benefit from your great talent. And when the time comes, your idea will be the idea. Sometimes organizations and people are just not ready. So I say, take your show on the road. That's, a lot of times people say you're always doing something, because I go to spaces where I feel I can contribute.
Right. Right.
Oh, I love that, Jermaine.
And I saw something in the chat. I'm jumping in here. Patrice says sometimes we are our own harshest critic without realizing how many people are inspired by us, even by the things about ourselves that we are least confident about. I throw that back into Sean's question, right? That feeling like they're not being heard or recognized. Sometimes that may be the case, but sometimes we beat ourselves up and say we're not being heard or recognized either. Not minimizing the question, Sean, but I just saw the relationship between what she was saying and what you're asking. Calandra or Lucia, anything you want to add to answering that question? What advice would you give to those who feel like they're not being heard or recognized?
Well, I agree with Jermaine in sort of finding other avenues to make impact, but I also think, like, don't give up. Keep at it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different opportunities where many of us are invited to countless meetings. You're there because you have a point of view, you have an idea that you want to share. Maybe to Jermaine's point, maybe the time is not now, maybe it's that when time, but don't keep at it. And there are opportunities to contribute, share ideas that may not even present, that they may not be obvious, right? But if you have a manager that is not listening, or if you have a unsupportive group within the team that you are, share those ideas and look for those opportunities to share ideas, because you are there, you are part of the Mount Sinai community for a reason. You are there to contribute. So I would say keep at it. That would be my advice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Kalandra, anything to add?
So I guess I would take a little bit of both of what they said. I'm always the controversial one.
No.
If you don't want what you're putting down, take your toys and go somewhere else. I'm just putting it out there because a lot of us beat ourselves up, and I've been there. I've been there where I held on to my toys and I said, they're going to listen to me. And they're not going to listen to me. They're not going to listen to me. And I held on to my toys and it ate me up. Sometimes you have to know when to go to the next table. So whether that table is outside, as Jermaine said, channeling that energy into some other project. Mount Sinai is a big place.
Big place.
Oh yeah.
And that's all I'm gonna say. Sometimes, and in all seriousness, and this is how we grow. One man's trash is another man's treasure. Someone else may be hearing you. So keep talking.
Yeah.
While you're at the table, this is where the confidence comes in. Keep using your voice.
Yes.
Because maybe somebody else is listening. Somebody who might be outside of your department.
Right.
Someone who may be outside of the organization. Somebody else is listening. And somebody else is smart enough to hear what you're really saying and listen to you. And come to you and say, you know what? Listen, we're multifaceted people. Don't let one person or one department or one boss's bad decisions keep you down.
Right.
So again, if you must, take your toys to somebody who will want to play with you.
I read a quote, I have it, I saw it on LinkedIn. You have to know when to leave the table when respect is no longer being served.
Yes.
I don't know who said it, but I love it. I'm in the chat. Gwen says, totally agree. Plant the seed where it is needed, which may be outside of our system. Lindia says, don't give up, continue to seek opportunities to present your ideas. Alexandra says, sometimes you have to leave and find your best fit. Patrice says, create your own table. I like that.
There you go.
I love that.
So I know this is just really great. I love the topics. All right, we're at 11:55. There are still questions in the Q&A, and I had one more question. So folks, you stay with me. We're in the lightning round. All right, here we go. I got a question here. And I'm going to take one or two answers from the panelists. Has racism and or sexism impacted your confidence levels in your career trajectory? If I can get one of you guys to answer that, then I got to jump into the Q&A and then we got to wrap up. This was really great. We're going to run out of time. Has racism and or sexism impacted your confidence levels in your career trajectory? Anyone?
No. My parents just taught me you go in with confidence with your head held high. I don't go into a room any differently than I normally would. If anything, probably being a Black woman has given me more confidence. So remember that you have a superpower. So just, use it. And I say that because I feel like I'm fortunate that I've not had to deal with that. But if I, when I have seen it happen and face it, you face it with, again, it goes back to knowing yourself and being confident in yourself.
Yeah, I would say yes and no.
Okay.
I remember earlier in my career, I had a boss. He was male, and he constantly tried to muzzle me. I mean, I use that. That's the word, right? Just thwart my contributions. I mean, just and that, because I just realized, just thinking back on that time, is that he was probably threatened by my ideas, by the contributions that I wanted to make. So something my grandmother always told me is that kill them with kindness and lead with love. She always said that to me, kill them with kindness and lead with love. And that has really stuck, helped me through a lot of different, issues that I've faced. But I would say that, for all of us on, we all, I think, have, I appreciate Calandra's statements, but I think that's, that's probably what I would share.
No, and thank you for sharing that story, because I appreciate that. I think that's something that people also need to hear. Jermaine, any point on that question?
I would say no, in the sense that I have had a good support system. I have had community role models and activists. My church has been very influential in my life and making sure I could remain confident despite the structural and systemic nature of racism. So that's how I would phrase it. My community empowered me to still be able to stand in a place of power and confidence, despite, because if we look at equity, that is still a problem. I'm glad it is a Mount Sinai Health System value now. So, more to come, but yeah.
Love it. I'm going to take one other question. I'm actually going to take it from the Q&A. And I think this is a great way. It's a positive way for us to end. Sometimes toxic workplaces chip away at your confidence. What are some ways for people to protect one's mental well-being and confidence in that case? So I'm going to try to end so we can end, so you can answer this question quickly. What's something that you do, right, ladies, to protect your mental health, to self-care when you're in these types of environments that chip away at your confidence? Last question. I'm going to go to Lucia, Jermaine, and then Calandra, and then we got to wrap up. What do you do, Lucia, to keep your mental?
Goodness, I pray. I meditate. There is an app that I use as well that helps me with mindfulness, and that helps. That helps me. Would you be so kind, Lucia, as to share that app in the chat with everyone so they can see what that is? Jermaine, what about you? How do you protect your mental well-being? How do you do that in the face of environments that might chip away at your confidence? What do you do?
I pray as well. I meditate, mindfulness moments, journaling, and really being intentional about who my circle is. Yeah.
Thank you, Jermaine. Calandra.
I pray also, and also I remember what's most important to me. So when my day is over, no matter how bad the day is, I cut the day off. I stand at the elevator, I whisper my day is over. When I come home, I have a 13-year-old and I have a 15-year-old and I have a husband who need mommy and wife.
I love it.
They don't need that toxicity during the day because they couldn't care less about it. So I think about what's most important to me.
Wow. Ladies, I just want to thank all of you. This was a wonderful conversation. As always, we don't have enough time. I could have went another 30 minutes maybe with some of the questions. And if you put questions in the Q&A and I didn't get to it, please, please, please forgive me. But I want to thank Lucia. I want to thank Jermaine. I want to thank Kalandra. I also want to thank Lindia, who partnered with us in planning this event. Thank you for making this panel discussion one of our best for 2021. I'm looking forward to planning more of these for 2022. Thank you to all of you guys who came in and was a part. You were so engaged. The chat was on fire. We truly appreciate you. As always, I want to end with a quote, and I'm going to be revolutionary and end with 2 quotes. How about that? Alice Walker is quoted as saying, the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. All right. And one more quote I want you guys to think about. Now, this is from one of my favorite actors, Michael B. Jordan. And he said, I don't care who's doing better than me. I'm doing better than I was last year. It's me versus me.
That's right.
You guys heard that?
That's right.
All right, everybody. Holiday greetings to everyone. Season's greetings. Happy New Year. We will see you at our next panel in 2022. Be safe, everybody. Thanks,
Thank you,
ladies.
everyone. Thank you.